Welcome back, Digging for Dollars. I'm Cejay Kim with my colleague Matt Wilson. Matt, let's talk copper.
Silver and gold, all-time highs. Definitely, good time for it.
We're contrarians, but copper is getting a lift, the same kind of lift. It's just maybe not as sexy right now as gold and silver, but all the macro fundamentals behind it. It's to me it's a screaming buy. Before, I guess we've seen, well, it's in the background. It's always been chugging a little bit higher and higher, but in the past there was this EV narrative where every green solution needed to have copper in that. That narrative is still around. It's just that all of these structural deficiencies now are really coming to light. We're seeing major mine disruptions, Grasberg, El Teniente, Comoa in Congo, Cobre is down. All of these mines that are, big time producers. Teck's mine in Chile was recently revised downwards, and they're having problems with their expansions. Ore grades are declining. The ESG narrative has really put a stretch on timelines, and that accompanied with supply concentration to countries. 50% of, or close to 50% of copper production comes from just two countries in Chile and Peru, and a lot more in South America. So we're seeing a definite supply crunch. All the analysts are saying that this supply deficit structurally will last decades now. So, the narrative is definitely there for copper and brand new high grade copper. So we can go back to your story, Sterling, and talk about other, copper companies within our portfolio.
Well, I think just on the macro, like the BHP, head of BHP and Friedland both have said over and over, you have to mine, or you have to use as much copper in the next 20 years as you have in the history of the world, right? And copper is something that's been mined for a very long time. Anywhere you need electricity in in tight quarters, you need copper. You need copper wiring for data centers. So if you care about AI revolutions, you need copper. If you care about EVs, you need copper, right? So whether or not that happens in a certain time frame, I think it's clear that you need copper. And some of these things have been online for a very long time. You see the tech at like Highland Valley, they're just continuing to mine 0.2, 0.15 just because they have the infrastructure there. I think that the hard part with copper is that the cost profile of these things is very, very large, right? And so they take time, like you said, and there was this focus on, it reminds me of oil. Remember like the shale oil thing back in 2012, 13? It's like, well, we have this many barrels of oil. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't work unless oil's $80, right? But then when oil is $80, everything works. So copper is one of those things too, where like everything works at $5, so eventually it comes on. I still think that, you need high quality, big projects. You need big things, big systems that exist for a long time. And I like to think that we have a few things in our portfolio that are pretty big and work, but Filo really changed the narrative. Like that, the whole Vicuña district really changed the narrative in copper, and really like Comoa as well, like these giants, like massive things. But there have been massive things before. But when you're 4,500 meters up in the Andes, that used to be not where you wanted to go. But when you're drilling 2,000 meters of a percent copper, that is where you want to go. So there's definitely a trade-off, and I think that's where we've kind of gotten into the portfolios, is trying to find that balance.
Yeah, and I think when you're hunting for these elephants, and you've mentioned this narrative before in past podcasts, where even though the discoveries are made during this cycle, the reality is they probably won't come online until next cycle or the cycle after that, just because of the scale and how expensive they are. Because a lot of the copper mines in Chile and Peru, the original discoverer of the actual deposit, they either go bankrupt and eventually end up in the hands of a larger company like Teck, who eventually take it on.
Yeah, these iterations of these things, it's really true. It's like, so you can't just attribute current, people are like, well, you're a leverage play to copper. No junior should be a leverage play to copper. You can do it a little bit with gold, maybe-ish, but they're faster, like these smaller things, like the Amexes of the world, where you can quickly get something going in a mining-friendly area. It's not a lot of rock to move. Copper giants, it's so much rock, so much dirt you have to move and so much engineering planning and these big things like the ATEXs of the world, 1,500 meters down, like that is a giant block cave. The engineering just to prevent yourself from dealing with earthquakes, right? You're in a seismic area. So these are big, big infrastructure projects. And just for anyone who's renoed their house, like, yeah, it'll take 6 months. 2 years later, you're still going, right? So it's
2 years later, 3 times as much.
Yeah, you've been on the LRT in Toronto lately and Eglinton. How's that going? So like, it's like these things are not so like, oh, we'll just build it in 3 years. So it better work.
And a lot of these closures are not because of civil unrest. Maybe Cobre is in Panama, but a lot of it is because of mine closure or mine failures
and more extreme weather, right? There's undeniably more extreme weather, and so with more extreme weather comes more extreme things, and so you got these events, and so for us, it's so I think that I love the copper narrative because I think copper really matters in the world, right? It matters for all the really amazing things that we're doing now, right? So I like putting money into copper. I think that copper though takes you need size, you need scale, right? Unless the grade is so high that it doesn't matter. But like it's hard to so that would be the only thing that I'd probably say is you need scale. Like copper has to be big for it to really matter.
Yeah. We are seeing a little bit more inflows as well, just because commodities at times can be used as an inflation hedge. But copper with its industrial applications really makes it the primary case of it. Sterling, obviously a lot of price action, but before we last spoke to you, we didn't see Dr. O'Brien's appointment to chief geologist, is it? Or chief geologist? Chief geologist. That's a huge appointment for a very small explorer. Like what made him come on?
I've been trying to get him to do that for a long time, and he's like, no way. And it's just a testament to the project, honestly. Like when I talk about scale and grade, I mean, he spent 20 years in the Vicuña district, and he's we ran Cominco, Mexico, and he's pretty good when it comes to scale. So he only thinks about things in giant context, like decades and decades of mine life. And what's the point if you're not going to do that? And he worked with Lucas Lundin for forever, and that was kind of their approach too, right? You need something that's big, and it started smaller, but that was how they started looking around the world. So I think that it shows that the project has merit. It shows that the project has a lot of potential, and you're not just listening to me about it, right? So, and I tried to couple it. That was why we actually just found those bornite in outcrop samples. So you got this, you now know that bornite in the system produces some pretty spectacular things, and now you know that you have 6 kilometers of it on surface. And so that and Neil, like you're starting to talk about the right pieces to find something that is a giant within this 30-kilometer mineral system. So exciting times. I learned so much from this guy. It's pretty wild to listen to him go off on the rocks. So that's been great. So that it's such a huge testament when porphyries are there. You want the right people to explore them.
Huge testament to the project. I cannot speak on behalf of Matt, but I imagine he will bring his Rolodex with him. That's just my speculation. Let's go into the portfolio. We have a couple of copper companies in there that we haven't touched on before. Is there any specific that you want to highlight, or you just want me to rip through some names and play 20 questions with them? Or
yeah, rip through them. I think that we've talked, we talk about Magotes as the greatest area play, with also a project as standalone in the world next to Filo. We've talked about Hercules. We talked about, what else we do? Spit at me. What else we got in there?
Well, let's go away from South America for a little bit. We have a couple of those just because, Peru, and we have a Colombian explorer in there. But let's talk about White Cliff a little bit, all the way up in Nunavut. It must be hard to work up there. And I imagine that if they want to work up there, they must be on to something good. Or
White Cliff is such a fun story. I really like the CEO. He's an Australian guy. So it's an Australian company. It's about a $50 million market cap, give or take. They probably have 10 million, although who knows how much they have in the bank anymore because they're in Nunavut. But this is like northern Nunavut. It's beside Sean Zubik's Tundra Copper. There's some holes up there. Zach Flood of Kenorland drilled a bunch with Rio. They drilled. The way I found out about this area of the world is that with Ivanhoe, Zach told me that they drilled 8 holes at 10-kilometer spaced holes, if we're thinking about scale, because this project is a sediment-hosted copper project. And for those who don't know, the superstar at the moment is Kamoa, right? It's Friedland's thing in Central Africa, and that the resource isn't expressed in tons; it's expressed in square kilometers. Just to get some context of how big these things are, it's like 54 square kilometers on their website. So the Cooper Schiefer in Poland, mining for like 2,000 years. These things go on forever. There's sometimes like 2 to 10 meters. Higher grade, 1% copper is kind of 0.5 to 1 is what you're going after. And these guys have this 60 kilometers of trend. You need to be on some sort of big structure. These guys have this wonderful sediment-hosted copper area on the right kind of structure. And then on top of that, they also have this kind of pod where they just keep drilling like 100 meters of 3% copper. It's going to be probably 7, 8, 9 million tons. But they drilled 170 of 3. I think they just drilled 20 of 5, 100 of 2, and they just get no love in the Aussie market right now. But all their sediment-hosted copper things on the 60-kilometer trend are waiting. Lots of the right kind of copper sulfide, so that it's very interesting. 50 million Aussie is like what 45 Canadian, and for what they have up there, it's pretty wild. I will say that it's crazy expensive to work up there, north of Nunavut. I know that it's not quite like the Polaris mine. It's not up where Aston Bay and America West are. That's on an island north of Nunavut. But that got a huge run. That they sold the royalty on that for 25 million. But this is cool. This is a big system. Early days up there, but definitely an area of the world to watch.
So we're just waiting on more assays?
We're waiting for the first assays on their set-hosted copper things, right? So they've drilled this mafic thing, this pod. Not a pod. It's better than a pod, but this mafic volcanic area they've drilled. That's where they get these 3, 4, 5% copper hits over really significant widths. And so now we're waiting to see what the sediment-hosted copper thing is. And honestly, like Sterling has the sediment-hosted copper thing in Labrador, and so we were excited over 9 meters of 2% copper, right? Because you find it, and then it's almost like a coal seam. It's like you chase it, and then it goes down to the center of the earth, and but it's tough. First Quantum in Central Africa, they have a bunch of them. They wrote this. There's a geologist out of there who wrote a paper that says you need 20,000 meters of drilling to figure anything out in sediment-hosted copper. It's just very complicated. It's not just like it's. I thought it was much easier. We went up to Labrador. We drilled 2,000 meters. We hit nothing, even though they had 10 meters of 2% right beside it. So geology can be quite complex. So we'll see. But when you find it, it's very, very big.
Yeah. How about Element 29, much larger market cap at around 160 million. They're in Peru, drilling out, what is it? Obviously lower grade, around 0.3% copper.
0.4, I think. The target there is 0.3, 0.4. It's a lot of copper. That's a very, very big project. I think it's like 300 million tons at 0.3, 0.35 right now. But that thing has lateral extent. They're hitting bornite at 1,500 meters depth. That thing is just the rocks are great there. It's pretty good for infrastructure, close to power. They're going to put 2 rigs on by the end of the year. It's had a great run since the deal. I think we did the deal 40, 50 cents, and it's $1 or something now. But team is focused on big things here, right? I think that it's not that high up. It's 1,800 meters or something like that. There's power nearby. There's a port that's being put in. You saw the who is it, Freeport or Glencore or whoever it was that's building a port really close to them. It's going to expand. Whether or not there's capacity, I don't know. But this is one of those things. It was just so much copper together that we kind of jumped at it. And the guys.
What's the short term trade there? Is it just resource expansion?
Yeah, it's basically resource expansion. I think they're going to have something new in the new year. The whole point of that one is that there's a lot more at depth, and then when you look at the system, the lateral extent of it will make the economics much better. Is because like we always forget in all things, we forget about strip ratio. So strip ratio is so important when you evaluate these things, right? Because you got ore, but if you have to make a pit that's a whole bunch of dirt around it, that kind of dilutes your ore grade, right? So if everything you dig and truck goes to the mill, you're probably doing a pretty good job. And that's what that project kind of looks like.
Okay, so Copper Giant, smaller market cap, 37 million. It's a company that was taken on and rebranded and redone by the Fiore Group. So they've been in there a lot, taking these older projects from the last cycle or the cycle before that and having their go at it. They've been quite successful with several companies so far. How's this one faring? Any different?
The old Libero copper is what it was called before. This is so different. I don't understand this one. We own it. We didn't buy it at 35. We bought it at 20. They had this at the market offering. going on, and an ATM is basically where the company sells into the market and is able to raise capital consistently. That put their stock down. If you think about it, the company is consistently selling shares, right? I'm not a huge ATM guy for juniors, so they canceled that. This project, though, has like 1,000-meter drill holes of 0.5 copper and 0.05 moly, 0.1 moly. It is very confusing. It's a very, very good project, I think. It's it's one of those that, like, if the market cap was higher, you would just assume it was great, because they're hitting 500 meters of 0.6 copper and 0.07 moly. And 0.07, just for context, moly to copper, just multiply your moly by 5 basically to get what it would be in copper, and 4.5 to 5. And so 0.07 moly becomes very quickly 0.25 copper with you're almost at 1% equivalent over 500 meters consistently. Like, huge holes. 35 million market cap. They have cash. Ian's done it before. He used to work, the CEO used to work at Porphyry's. Colombia is really tough right now. That would be the only thing. It's a hard jurisdiction to work in at the moment.
Do you think the wind is out of the sails a little bit because of the ATM?
Maybe. They had to redo it a little bit. They drilled a hole after that 35-cent deal. I honestly don't understand. It's weird. It's one of those things where I would have bought a lot more. Just something was confusing. I don't understand. Like the Fiore Group, they lots of money put behind it. There's road there. There's 2 big power lines through it. There's something about some national park, but that doesn't seem to be a thing. I don't know. It seems very cheap.
I've never been a fan of ATMs. I just feel like it takes a lot of momentum out of the stock. And when you're working that hard and you don't have a lot of touch points with the market, why remove the element of momentum just to raise money?
If I'm a junior and I'm telling you to, my whole job is to tell you to buy the stock, right? Especially as CEO, I'm supposed to tell you to buy the stock. So if I'm telling you to buy the stock and I, as a company, am selling the stock, it seems a little bit hypocritical, maybe, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, but you do it when you raise money. I don't know. I'm not a huge ATM guy either, because the consistency
maybe it evens out, like where you put the pin in it when you do a big financing versus.
Can you raise enough at the ATM? Yeah, I don't know. I never see them working that well for things that are smaller. You can do it if you're really big, but it's not something I see very much that works.
Yeah, not a fan of it. Okay, so let's move on to a private co. Scout Discoveries, a junior explorer, primarily, lion's share located in Idaho with a project in Nevada, I believe. But, they're doing a lot of, is it Nevada?
Idaho. Nevada, they have a porphyry, but mostly in Idaho.
Yeah, mostly in Idaho. They've been doing a lot of cool stuff, but as a private co, not a lot of people know about it, but they're one of the few explorers in Idaho right now doing a lot of good things.
Curtis is great, the CEO. They own 5 rigs. They're working on multiple projects. They own 5 drill rigs. They have a full team in Core. So they get paid to do work for other people too. It's a wonderful story. It's backed by the Electrum Group, Thomas Kaplan in New York City. They won the BHP Discovery they for their 5th project or something like that. They got so much good stuff. But the reason we put money in is because they have the greatest molybdenum anomaly next to Hercules and IDEX. And IDEX had just drilled that 100 meters of a percent. Hercules, of course, has been a big deal. Barrick put $30 million in. And here comes these guys. And Molly, Molly is a very good indicator of a porphyry. So there was a geologist I met from Newmont who says any Molly anomaly over 10 parts per million. 10 parts per million. That's 0.0001, whatever it is, percent. You got to drill if there's any cluster of Molly, because it doesn't move that much. So you're in porphyry country. Hercules next door, IDEX next door. They have this great ground. They have a porphyry hole that comes to surface, low grade. And here they have this 3 kilometer, 500 parts per million Molly anomaly. That's 3 kilometers next door to Hercules. I haven't drilled it yet. They're waiting on permits, but I love this story. It's a good story.
Have they drilled it out yet, or are they drilling
it? Still waiting on permits. And then I think that they're talking about public. I don't know, last I talked to Curtis, he wasn't really sure, because they have that model of being able to fund things through service providing. And again, they own these 5 drill rigs, and they're drilling Wolfden, something that we own down in Nevada, right? They're busy. So
hopefully they give some public exposure to shareholders, or one ultimate exit towards the end. It would be cool if they just start spinning out these projects and, giving a piece of it to shareholders.
Yeah, that would be cool. Hopefully that's something that we'll see. I know that they're working on a lot of things. Obviously, the way the market is right now, it probably is quite enticing for them. It's a good story. That would be, if that goes public, that would be one that you definitely want to shout from. There's so many good supporters in there, so many good shareholders. We'll see what happens there.
Okay, so before I introduce our guest for today, I am going to go off on a tangent and talk about corporate presentations, not specific to any company that we spoke about today, but Matt and I do a lot of research, and this is just me speaking now. So if you have a presentation, don't use half of the deck touting the merits of a specific commodity. Maybe one or two in the beginning. We get it. We're in the space. We know the commodity. We don't need half of the presentation dedicated to that. Okay, I'm going to keep on going because I have a platform. I'm going to use it a little bit. Okay, when I click on the presentation link, don't default to a download. Either open up a new page as a PDF, but don't make me download it. That's just annoying. I'd prefer it if it opens up to a new window. And lastly, don't put it in some sort of weird embedded viewer within the website. And if you do that, make an option where I can download it as a PDF. So if you're using Verify or something, just give me a PDF version of it. Make it simple. Okay, thank you. All right, so on today's show, our special guest, I'm pleased to welcome Allan Barry Laboucan, the founder and voice behind Rocks and Stocks News. He's a longtime commentator and investor in the mining and resource markets with experience that stretches back to the early 90s. Over the years, he's worn many hats, from working in the field to managing and advising companies on strategy to offering sharp, independent market commentary. He brings a rare mix of boots on the ground insight and market intelligence. Allan, great to have you with us today.
Hey, good to see you guys. I'm glad to be on your show.
How the tables have turned.
You guys do a lot of great work. We need more of it in the industry.
This is a crossover that I'm not sure people were thinking about, but now that they see it, they want it. So here we are. You've been on fire lately. You've been everywhere these days. You've been picking stocks, but you've been doing this for a while. But all this hard work has paid off because you're one of the go-to platforms now for people to learn more about the market and individual stocks. So congratulations on all the success.
Well, I've been working at it for 32 years in the business and 20 years as a commentator on the market, and I try to stay really focused on the rocks and stocks. And I've had some great mentors in geology, geophysics, and geochemistry that have helped me to, sort of look at what's important when it's coming out of the drill core. I get lucky every once in a while and had some good picks.
Allan, we've been talking today about copper because gold and silver are at all-time highs, so we figured we'd just totally contrarian it all. We can talk about gold and silver, as I know that's really something you focus on a lot. But what do you think? If you're looking at, let's just stick assets right now, do you have kind of not a checklist, because it's not so generic that you can say that, but is there a way that you can kind of provide an overview of what is it that you look for in an asset when you say, all right, this is good or this is bad?
Well, it always starts out with the project and primarily the results from the truth machine. And then I start looking at, for a long time it was really all about the rocks for me, the drill core. But now that we're in this digital marketing era, a company's commitment to using digital marketing has risen quite dramatically in what I look for. I don't want to say it's an equal weighting, but it's become a very important weighting because, I look at things like X and YouTube, and I think that it's almost like a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week investor conference. And so if mining companies are out spending money on these in-person conferences that are very expensive, and I don't really know how much results they get out of it, and they don't have their digital marketing house in order, I get a little bit leery. But again, it all comes down to the rocks. And I'm a big bull on gold, silver, and copper. And so that's what my picks fall into the various categories. And then I try to have some majors, some mid tiers, some junior miners, some explorers and developers as well.
All right, so let's focus on the first one. I like the digital marketing topic. What is your favorite, or no, it doesn't have to be the top one. What is one of the best companies that you see in digital marketing today that everyone could possibly look at and say, all right, look, this is an example of someone who's doing a good job?
Kirkland Lake Discoveries.
All right, in-house.
Well, that's part in-house. They come on my show every once in a while. And, I really like that they're focused on showing their core, showing the progress. And what it really comes down to me is, we work in a really exciting business. It's a treasure hunting business. But I don't see a lot of companies that are really good at bringing their audience of shareholders into the treasure hunting business. And I think we, as an industry, do a horrible job at that. And I think we need to do a lot better. And I like what Kirkland Lake Discoveries is doing to really keep their shareholders informed of what they're doing.
I always say, I was on a podcast this morning, and Steph came up, and I said, Steph has got to be the hardest working. I think Steph, and I am a CEO in the junior mining space, and so I'm definitely putting myself below it. Steph is the hardest working, I think, CEO in our entire space, and a great guy to back. So that's great. Okay, so next, what's your, in the gold and silver space, what are maybe a couple names that you're really following that you say to yourself, man, I really like these. People don't know them enough. People need to understand that these are exciting.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and I don't want this to be a commercial for your guys' picks, but just so happens, Kirkland Lake, Sokoman is one that's really come onto my radar of late. Not radar, they've been on my radar for a few years, and I love the project because I love high-grade gold. And then Denny came on, which caught me by complete surprise. Luckily, I had bought some stock the Friday before the announcement, and then as soon as Denny got involved, I started buying more stock. And because I looked at that project and I thought, man, this is underloved, and you get a guy like Denny involved, and it can get a lot more love. And so those are kind of the ones I looked for. Just this morning, I got a pleasant surprise from Orla Mining, up about 22%. And I originally picked them because they were on the Lassonde curve, and Pierre Lassonde was the big shareholder, and that was for their Camino Rojo mine before it got into production. But then I looked at Musselwhite, and I got really excited because, this was a classic example of a project that was underloved by a major, and then the major sold it to a mid-tier. The mid-tier gave it the love it needed, and today they had spectacular news about their production, and the stock's up about 25% today. So, yeah, it all comes down to quality no matter where I'm looking along the curve.
Yeah. Hopefully, coffee can follow a similar path.
I was going to say Fuerte, right? Yeah. It's been like that's the move. It's like these majors are spinning these things out. Look at Discovery. Discovery Silver is wild. It's worth $5 billion right now. I didn't think Newmont was big enough that $5 billion was immaterial. That still feels pretty material to me. So I don't know what it's that conglomerate discount, right?
It's the difference between inside of Newmont, is it worth $5 billion? But as a part of DSV, yes, it is. So it's a company making asset for a smaller company and just like marginal for a big company.
Yeah. I imagine when it's hidden on a larger producer's balance sheets, it's not getting the exploration upside it deserves, the speculation that any individual project will have. It's just getting hit with a multiple, and that's it when it's all said and done.
And that you bring up a good point there with Orla. You know, they had great results. They stepped out 1,000 meters and hit, and then they came out with their great production numbers today. And you know, it's that just shows you put some love into the mine, you put some love into exploration, and here's a 28-year producing mine that could be producing for another 28 years.
Yeah. Orla is a cool company because they are, in that stage where there are some key acquisitions, like they did Gold Standard Ventures back then with the railroad project, and that was, a sweetheart in the last cycle, and they slowly been building that up. So that's definitely a company that is not in the spotlight as much as the other mid tiers.
No, but I think it will be. Equinox is another of my mid tiers that I really like, because they sit on a bunch of debt that gives them a bit of a discount, and then they had some problems at the mine at the startup of Greenstone, green something, and then they brought Darren Hill in, changed the management, and almost fixed things immediately. And so now that they've got that mine and the one in Newfoundland coming online, it's going to be a free cash flow machine. And I think people are going to be shocked at how quickly they can pay back the debt that they owe.
All right, that's a
good example of why, people want to do their homework. And I'm always harping on do your homework, because that's how you find underappreciated assets. And don't just put them into a cubbyhole and say, okay, here's this, and this is what they are, and blah, blah, blah. You want to look at the assets individually. And that, if there's one skill that I think I have, is that, you take a project to a geologist, and a lot of times they compare it to their favorite project. So compared to their favorite project, it's no good. But what I try to do is try to look at every project individually on its own merits, and then assess, do I like this as an investment or not?
Well, that is a good segue, and I messed it up because I interrupted you, and it would have been way better if I had not done that. But given we've gone now from Equinox into doing your own homework, I think this is a great time to play our favorite game on this show.
I'm ready.
Dig this deal. This is our favorite. This is the most fun thing. I've learned so much. I've bought so many different deals because of this.
I dig this deal. I love it. By the way, guys, I watch all of your shows. I'm a big fan. So I know the format. I'm ready to roll.
All right. So just for those who are new or listening in or us, so the deal is, it's like an elevator ride, right? You got 30 seconds to 1 minute, unless you're Cejay, who takes 5, and you ultimately can say anything you want, but you have to say the market cap, because in this space, too often we talk about things without a relative value context, and therefore we say you must say the market cap. 30 seconds to 1 minute. Who would like to kick off?
I'm eager to roll, boys. Okay. So my company has a market cap of less than 100 million. Okay. 20% less than 100 million. It's a base metal explorer. It's in a great jurisdiction for mining and exploration in Canada. It has an impressive discovery hole, a large land package with many targets. It has widespread mineralization. They're drilling now. Assays are pending. They can drill almost completely year round. They're well funded. And I have a special category in my reports where they're initially an exploration pick, and then once they make an important discovery, then I put them into my explorer with an important discovery pick. And I believe that this company will be the fastest from an exploration pick to an important discovery pick. Dig it or ditch it.
I super dig it, only because I think it's the same company that we've been talking about I could be wrong because I have a one-track mind now and I'm super biased towards it. Is it sterling?
Well, you have to say dig it or don't dig it
I
first.
super dig it. I super dig it.
The only problem with this company is the CEO is a little bit stuck in the past, and he's afraid to show his drill core. And because he thinks, I think that it needs a guarantee. But I think he's coming around. So do you dig it or don't dig it?
No, I ditch it. It sucks. Allan, we should have put a caveat on this that all of our deals we didn't have to talk about. That was good. That was good. I've heard that pitch before.
I tried to keep away from too much details, but the discovery hole is quite impressive. You're right, it is sterling, but and I don't want to apologize for picking a company that you guys are so involved with, but with an $82 million valuation, and what I see, and by the way, I've done my homework even further than I usually do. My mentor in geochemistry is a retired and lives in Batchewana Bay now, and we spent about 2 hours talking about your project on the weekend. And I look at it and I say, wow, for an $82 million valuation, I definitely dig it.
Well, thank you. I tend to as well.
Also, what's the point of having access to all of this cool distribution if we don't press on our bets and add fuel to the flame? So I have no shame. I have no shame. Sterling Metals, super dig. Let's go.
If you were just pitching ditch companies, well, that's another thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm not part of your organization, and I love it. I'm a shareholder. And I bought after it had run up a lot. I'm luckily at about $1.90 as my purchase price, and it's up nicely today. But I think it's a really underappreciated how important this discovery could be very quickly. So,
all right. Okay, so the past couple of podcasts, Cejay brought out a couple of duds. I can't say Earth Lab's a dud, but I still had to talk up my own book. My company is a fun one because we were just talking about unloved projects within larger majors. So this company is a 4.85 million market cap company. So we love taking swings on companies with asymmetric upside. All right. They just optioned a silver project from Newmont in Nevada. So this property lies 23 miles northwest of Lovelock in Pershing. It was produced, it was a silver producer in the past, 1.1 tons of silver oxide at a grade of 6.32 ounces per ton, or 180 grams per ton, approximately 5 million ounces of silver. It has 7.3 million ounces of silver in oxide mineralization still, 21.1 in sulfides. However, I appreciate the exploration upside of it. Reports made by SRK, take that with a grain of salt, but reports indicate that there's a chance to substantially grow the oxide resource. It's open in pretty much every direction, and you can still, high grade the existing mineralization if you want to do that to the resource, because I think the original resource, it's a historical at this point, came out in the 80s. So $5 million market cap, optioning a silver project from Newmont in Nevada, in the midst of a financial raise right now. What's the upside on a good silver deal?
Well, you're talking to a guy who's in the most important silver mining camp in the world, which is Mexico. And you had me so close to being a dig it.
No, Allan. You want to risk it for the biscuit? You want to make some money?
Well, my fear is that it's small and it's fairly what we would consider low grade here in Mexico, or lower-ish grade. I do like the oxides, and I do like the grade in the oxides, so that's open pittable, that you could make a lot of money at it. But it's kind of small, and it's not that I don't like small, because they can get big with more drilling. but it's kind of in between dig it and ditch it for me.
We call that digging. We call that digging in.
Digging in. Let's classify that as a digging in and not a ditch it.
Definitely not a ditch it.
Okay.
I think that you have to dig in. I personally think that I have passed on this, but I think that I am more on the. I hate to be negative on a silver company with a $5 million market cap and a $52 silver market. So I'm not trying to be negative on this story. I think that for me, I would ditch for the most part for the same reason, which is the size and scale for me. It's just, it sounds like a really great trade. The scale of that thing, I don't know how I can jump into that.
Cejay, what's it trading at, and what is their raise? How much are they raising? And
I think they're only raising a couple of $1 million. They're a $4.85 million company. It's K9 Gold. They came up on my radar because they just optioned off all of that Stony Lake land in Newfoundland to Sockman. So I wondered, it was just kind of made me wonder what else that they have there. And I was like, the silver project is pretty interesting. It was incubated, I think, out of the office of Millennial Potash, and we've done good on that deal. And I think there's some cross-pollination there, but I know it's cheap.
It sounds like something that will probably go up, if that makes sense on a dig.
I'm going to definitely put it on my radar screen. I'm going to watch this one, because if it looks like they can grow it, then it becomes a dig it immediately, because I love silver. There's not enough silver explorers. It's amazing. You got silver trading at $50, and just I have a hard time. I think I have 4 silver explorers on my pick list.
Well, and all the good ones were acquired. So a lot of the larger companies made a good bet, like even this year with the acquisitions.
Well, I was happy because 2 of those were picks of mine, Mag Silver and also Silvercrest. I picked both of those when they were in the going into production phase, and went up the right side of the Lassonde curve. So,
do you like silver because there's still such a large disconnect between what it historically traded at with gold, or do you just like silver as a precious metal? Like, why do you like it so much?
I am anti gold to silver ratio kind of guy. I think that gold and silver both have very compelling arguments of why they should go up. Whether they each go up 100%, or one goes up 110% and one goes up 100%, I don't really care about that. What I do care about is, I think that you look at the deficit between silver production and silver demand, especially from solar panels, that has overwhelmed the physical above ground supply now, and I think that's why we're seeing it at $50, and now I think it's going to set a series of record highs, much like what we saw with gold when it broke above 2100, which I predicted, and then set a series of record highs after that, which I predicted it would. And I think we're going to see the same thing happen with silver. So, go out there and look for good silver stories. There's not a lot of them, but there are some great ones out there. Vizsla Silver, for example, Pan American Silver, Argenta Silver for exploration, Kootenay Silver for exploration. But then my list gets smaller after that.
All right. Mine I have to stay relatively theoretical here, and I usually don't do this, but we're going to assess what you guys think about this. So I don't even know if I can say the name of it. I'm not sure because it's a public company, but I don't know if anyway, we're going to do it. So I'm a $50 million market cap. The commodity I am in is actually a series of commodities, I think 23 of them, and I am incredibly difficult to mine as a commodity. Metallurgy is always the biggest issue, leading to the fact that in hard rock, I actually generally don't work, and I need to be in a clay to be able to recover and separate anything that has of any economic value. The commodities that I'm dealing with are relevant to anything electronic in the world, LEDs, spaceships, take your pick, it's probably in there. And currently, China and the US are fighting over them a lot. I have a giant deposit, similar almost in every way, including rock type, to meteoric resources in Australia, which is currently worth $500 million, or Eclair, which is worth $1 billion. I have the same grades and size. $50 million market cap.
So some hard rock, rare earth deposit.
Rare earths, ionic clays, the right kind of rock, 50 million. My comps are 500.
So it's in clays?
It's in clays.
Where are you?
I am also in Brazil,
Brazil.
which accounts for, I think, the second highest rare earth development in the world.
50 mil, rare. It's a good story right now. A lot of news in regards to like China.
Sorry, I gotta ditch this one because it's only because I'm not much of a rare earth guy. I don't know enough about it to, be of any value as whether I dig it or ditch it. I will say that with a $50 million valuation and 500 to $1 billion comps and what's happening with rare earths these days, deals being done, I'll do my homework.
It sounds like
on
you
it.
dig it, Alan. I don't know.
I'm gonna follow Alan. I follow the smart money. I ditch it as well.
Wow, I dig it. So whatever.
Two against three.
All right. Well, I don't even know if I can say the name right now. I'm not sure if it's been disclosed yet. So in future episodes, I will say it when it comes public, as it will be coming public.
What do you mean disclose? Like,
I don't know if it's coming out of a company. It's coming out of a company. So I'm not sure if I'm actually able to say what it's coming out of. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Anyway, so anyway, there we go. That future disclosing, when it does go, I will talk about it a lot because I dig it, but you guys don't. And so we'll circle back now in 6 months when it's worth $500 million.
Ditch it with an asterisk just because I don't know enough about.
This is the best game. This is the best game. Alan, thank you very much for coming on our show. It's a real pleasure. Thank you for all the work that you do in the space. It's fun, really fun to follow along in this good market. It's a really great thing too. So, let us know when there's the next deal, and we'll try and keep talking about it together.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I really love the work you guys are doing as well. I'm a promoter of content creators because I think we need more of it. I'm a promoter of companies using digital marketing to get the word out. And it's like you can push a button and you're talking to hundreds and hundreds of people.
if they want to learn more about like your write-ups and stuff, where should they go? To your Substack, or should they just look you up online?
Actually, they can go to my Substack, which is rocksandstocks.substack.com. They can go to my YouTube, which is Rocks and Stocks News. Allan B Reports on Twitter. And I'm easy to find. And something I do different than most of my peers. I put all of my work out. They can go back and look at every report I've ever made. So, I think that's important too, because you can do your homework on me.
That's awesome. Alan, thanks for joining us today. It was such a pleasure. A lot of fun.
Adios, amigos.
Thanks, Alan. Take it easy.
Okay. So Alan is old school, been around for 30 years, but, he's quickly realized that how important it is to have a social media presence. And that reminds me of a company this past week that's, they have a stock that very well followed. It's just that they have this policy where they will not interact with shareholders or stakeholders online. And the CEO of the company said it's because every company that he worked for in the past had this policy where they would not engage in shareholders via social media. So is that an old way of thinking, you think, or have times changed? His reason was because of selective disclosure. But
it's a hard one. I do get cautioned myself by both by all teams involved, legal, IR, whatever it is, to be like, be careful what you say online and things like that. And it is a thing, right? Especially with the way the venture is. The venture, the BCSC, the IROC, like honestly, what people don't understand is the amount of kickback you get from anything that you say. I don't know why we have it in our space, whereby I can be a tech company and say that I'm going to overtake Google and nothing happens to me. But if I'm an exploration company, I say I'm trying to find 1 billion tons of copper, you get fined. It's an absurd thing. So I think that truthfully, the regulators, and I know that obviously BRIAX was a big thing, right? So 43101, I got it. But it's ridiculous. Honestly, we could have an entire episode of tirade that I can go on about the absurdity of the words. You can't even use excessive words when you put a press release. You can't say greatly or very high grade. You can't say very. You can say high grade. Even if it is very high grade. We drilled 33% copper. You couldn't say very high grade. Can you believe that? Absurd. So, to the point of the digital marketing piece, it is one of those things that there's a back and forth because you say to yourself, well, if I say anything, there's a whole thing that happens. So I think personally, it is more of a fundamental shift in the way that our industry works, right? Because you're selling a story, and so it's so boring, right? So I'm with Allan. I'm with you. I like say stuff, talk to people, be like, yeah, this is going to be great. Fine.
Well, there's thousands of other explorers that you have to differentiate yourself from. The majority of new investors in this generation of, the generation that's going to inherit literally trillions of dollars from the baby boomers, they get all of their investment advice or investment ideas from social media. That's been proven that.
But that's what ends up happening, right? Is that you get other people to tell the story for you because other people have to tell it for you because you can't say anything. So what does that say about our space, right? Where people pay people that because the CEO can't talk. You've hit a nerve with me here, but I think that would be a good topic. We'll bring a regulator on and just grill them, but
get one of the exchange analysts.
But it's good. The more people that talk about it, the better, right? So it is a good thing.
Well, I'd like to hear their story because it feels like there is no standardization or uniformity when it comes to certain policies or some written language. I'm sure that they have everything in some sort of.
Are you sure? I'm not.
Well, I'm gonna take their side because I don't want them. I don't want them going after me. They're okay. Hey, Matt, they're okay. They're good. They're good people.
They are good people. It's just the rule book is odd.
They're there to protect us.
Great.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. See you next week.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.